What if the whispers you've heard in moments of stillness weren't your imagination, but a calling from something greater? In a world so often dominated by noise, distraction, and doubt, many of us yearn for a deeper connection to meaning, to purpose, and to spirit. Yet the path to that connection can feel uncertain, even out of reach. Today's guest knows this journey well and has dedicated his life to illuminating the bridge between this world and the one beyond. Joining us is Michael McAdams, a lifelong seeker of truth and co-author of An Angel Told Me So, a collection of messages and teachings received directly from spirit teachers and angels through his late mother, Wilma Jones. In this episode, we'll dive into the most common blocks people face when trying to connect with their angels and spirit guides, the recognition that spiritual communication is available to everyone, and how you can begin to open those channels, and what our guides want us to know right now in these turbulent times. So whether you're spiritually curious or deeply devoted, my hope is that this conversation will stir something powerful within you. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Well, hi, Jennifer. Thank you for having me, and that is a great introduction.
Oh, well, you are a great person to be introduced. Thank you so much for being my guest. And I think that this will be so illuminating for our guests who are so interested in moving beyond this world, this realm, and really thinking about how they can have a greater connection with the other side. And so we hear things like spirit teachers and spirit guides and angels, and sometimes these terms are used interchangeably. I'm curious to you, are they one and the same or are they different?
Actually, they are one and the same. Spirit teachers, spirit guides are angels, just viewed from a different perspective. One religious, one spiritual.
Excellent.
I was brought up with a foundation of faith, church-based, Bible-based. My entire family were preachers, pastors. Are you familiar with Pentecostal religion? Pretty strict, literal interpretation of the Bible. They've loosened up a bit over the years, but that was my family and my background. And even when I was young, I had questions. I had questions about heaven and hell as it was described in the sermons that my uncle would give. I'm talking 8, 9 years old. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this just doesn't sound right. But as I continued on my journey and as I got older, I became more spiritual than religious. And I actually had gotten involved with a group in Cincinnati called Psychic World, and I did psychic readings. I had a table at their group, and I was able to hold rings, watches, keys, anything that holds a person vibration. It's called psychometry. And I had a legal tablet, would not pump them for information. They'd sit down at my table, and I would just ask their first name, and they would give me something to hold. And I would proceed to get a message for them, page and a half. And when it got to the end, it would stop. I would read it to them. Sometimes they would cry. And it was more confirmation as to what they were going through rather than actual prophecy. And this message, these messages and that information was coming from their spirit teachers. And we're all born with the innate ability to receive from our own spirit teachers.
So many people like you have been raised in religious households. And I too, when I was younger, I was pretty much raised in the Catholic tradition, but then I switched over to like a born-again Christian Protestant type of religion, which you'd think that they would be very similar, but they're not. They're actually very, very different from each other.
True.
And I found myself at odds with how adversarial these both Christian-based religions were with each other. And I just felt like, well, it just doesn't seem right. Aren't we supposed to love each other? And how can we put up these kinds of walls? And I too started to develop upon my own spiritual path, which has what I would consider elevated beyond religion. I understand the basis of religion and how a lot of them are trying to get at the same thing, but through different lanes. And I also understand the strict interpretation of the Bible and how I've actually learned to use them more as stories and as parables and messages of maybe greater morality and thinking and humanity versus trying to stay strictly to those codes. Like, I think the 10 Commandments are beautiful, but I don't think that a lot of the literal interpretations of the Bible may necessarily be accurate in this modern age. And interestingly enough, just speaking to your point about becoming a psychic, I know so many people go to psychics because they feel that they don't have those capabilities themselves. And you being more open and being more of a clear channel for these messages have a special gift. Some may actually feel like they're not necessarily genuine. I mean, I know that your mom, Wilma Jean Jones, claimed to have received messages from the other side for over 22 years, and a lot of people are understandably skeptical when it comes to channeling or spiritual downloads. What convinced you that all of these messages were authentic and from a higher source?
Well, I tell people that any psychic, any reading that you would get, any psychic worth their salt is going to tell you that this is not coming from me. This is coming from your spirit teachers, your guides, your angels, again, depending on your perspective. And that information is being relayed, and I'm just sharing it with you. And people with a foundation of faith, they're already reaching out to the spiritual realm in prayer. And the spiritual realm, if you have a foundation of faith, that spiritual realm would be to you heaven. But I believe that the spiritual realm is much more than just a place called heaven. It encompasses the vastness of the other side, as vast as this physical plane. And it's amazing the distances and the universe that encompasses this physical plane. The spiritual realm is on the other side. And I tell people, I say, there is no death. We never really die. It's just graduation. We ride around in these bodies the way we ride around in our cars. These bodies are just a vehicle to negotiate this physical plane. And when we cross over, when we graduate, we go through a veil, a vibration, a frequency. We don't really know what the medium is that separates us from this spiritual realm. But we are born with the innate ability to communicate with the spiritual realm in real time. And it's two-way communication. Our spirit teachers can communicate with us, offer us guidance, direction, support, encouragement. I'd slow down up ahead if I were you. I wouldn't buy that car if I were you. Now, where does that information come from? And a lot of people may think it's their conscience, their imagination. And then you have other people who may be afraid to open their minds and allow this information to be shared. And I advise people, I say, you need to establish a filter, an aura of protection within your mind so that no negativity, nothing that does not come from a positive nature will be made known to your mind. And the easiest way to do that is with affirmations. I'm sure you're familiar with affirmations. And an affirmation that was given to me years ago, so long ago, I don't even remember when I didn't have it. It said, let no thoughts, ideas, or information be made known to my mind that does not come from God or his direct representatives. And use that as your filter. Say a prayer, ask for protection. Use that as your filter. And then just quiet your mind. You don't have to sit in front of a candle in a cross-legged position and darken the room. And there are a lot of things that you don't have to do. Many times we can receive just riding in our car with the radio turned off. That's happened to me before. So it's not difficult. I mean, it's just such an easy transition to make. If you have an open mind, ask for the protection, establish that filter, and then make that communication with your own spirit teachers.
So do you think that it's semantics where people are saying, okay, well, my guides told me, or God answered my prayer, or I had this thought? Are those all the same thing, but we're just interpreting it differently through our own lens? How do we know?
It's really more, it's more of a perspective than anything else. But there are spirit teachers. We each have at least one. And you're talking one spirit teacher for every single person on this planet. Now, God is busy. He takes care of the big things. But you have spirit guides, spirit teachers, angels, guardian angels, archangels, and they all have their duties and responsibilities. And if you can make that connection with your own, then you have an advantage over so many people that either don't believe or don't feel that it's possible or will ignore advice, guidance, or direction. And if you ignore their advice, you do so at your own peril.
So what happens if you do make a prayer, as many people do, and then you feel that something happens that is not necessarily what you had prayed for? And then people get angry at God. They'll say, God, why didn't this happen? Or why did you take this person from me who was ill? Or things like that. How do you reconcile when somebody is reaching out to their spirit teacher and they feel that they are being ignored?
Well, it's said that God answers all prayers. Sometimes the answer is no. And you have to be willing to accept that. And if it's something that you want really, really badly, and they know that this not is in your best interest or it's not going to work out in the long run, it's going to be difficult, really, really difficult. Now, we have been born with a number of gifts from God, and one of those gifts is a pesky little gift called free will. And we can accept or reject any advice, guidance, direction, or support that we're given. And we can ask for something, and if they believe or feel that it's not in our best interest or it's not going to work out in the long run, then it won't come easy. It doesn't mean you can't override their choice and do what you want. But I tell people, I say, you can listen and ask. You're not required to obey, but you can listen and ask for an answer. And then you can decide whether you want to go with their selection, their choice, their recommendation, or your own feelings and emotions.
Mhm.
See what works out for the best. And
Right.
after a while, you're thinking, I ought to give them another try because they know. Why is it that everything they suggest works out for the best for me?
Well, I guess it's all in your perspective too. It's interesting because having really entrenched in a spiritual and a conscious community, there are some folks that I'm very, very dear friends with that won't move a muscle without consulting their guides. And I almost feel like, well, don't you become like puppets on a string then if you're not executing upon your free will, if you're not thinking about other things as well? Because sometimes it's like, well, my guides just told me to do this. I don't know why. Whatever they say, I'm just going to do. And so I'm just curious about what your perspective is on listening to them and not necessarily executing your own free will.
Oh, I agree with you completely. You don't have to consult with a spirit teacher for every decision that you make. I mean, we're all here to live and learn, and human beings are a product of their choices and decisions. The
Mhm.
path that you walk is all based on choices and the decisions that you've made all of your life. And you learn by making mistakes. You just don't know where your path is going to lie. Now, what's interesting is you and I are really doing the same thing. We're shining a light on a path for people who are seekers, all sincere seekers of truth. And we're making a recommendation, look here. And people, they look up and they say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to be here. I'm off on this tangent. I want to be back over here on my path. So by being able to share this information, we're just letting people know that they're not alone. They were born with the innate ability to receive. There is a book. Are you familiar with a book called the Hierarchies book?
I am through you.
Really? Okay. Yeah, the link on my website. Interesting book. Hierarchies is their name for the earth. So it's really the earth book. And it was transmitted through an individual in 1935, first published in 1955, been translated into 27 languages, over 4 million copies in print. It's my light reading, 2,107 pages. But you don't read it like a novel. It's a series of papers that are numbered and titled, dictated directly from spirit teachers from the other side. But there's a section in there on personalized thought adjusters. And it says that upon the age of our first moral decision, when we make a decision that shows that we know right from wrong, and it's usually about 4 to 4.5 years old, we are then assigned a personalized thought adjuster, guardian angel, spirit teacher, and that adjuster will stay with us for life, helping us, guiding us, supporting us. We still have free will. We can make our own decisions. We're not required to obey, but that information is available if we're willing to listen and take advantage of it. So people should open their minds, have confidence that they're protected, and then pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to something you said earlier about this protection and lighting candles, your mother lit candles, prayed and asked for protection before each of her sessions. Do you believe that there are real risks in this type of spiritual work? If so, then what are they?
I do not. I believe that if you establish that protection and have confidence in the filter that you establish, that you are allowing no negativity or anything that would be negative in nature to come into your thought system. And we each have our own personal thought system, like a little mini solar system that's swirling around within our minds. And we can accept and reject any advice, guidance, direction, suggestions that do not sit well with us. We are the judge, and we can decide what we want to accept and what we want to discard. And you can discard any negativity or anything. And eventually you train your mind. You're training your spirit, actually. That just came into my mind. You're training your spirit to be able to accept nothing but positive information. It doesn't mean that you're not still going to have problems with your car. Doesn't mean that you're not still going to have family problems or issues at work or with other people. But you make your way with the full knowledge and comfort that you're not alone and that we are here for a reason. We've been born to a certain set of parents in a certain social station for whatever it is we're supposed to learn in this lifetime.
Yes, I once had a clairvoyant tell me that because of the work that I've been doing to become more of a positive, inspirational force, that I become a magnet for dark energy. And so I do need to request or ask for this layer of protection. And I was like, I never really even thought about that. I've always just felt that I was protected, that I never really felt unsafe or that anything would necessarily harm me. I just don't walk around life worrying about things like that. So that I thought that was a very curious thing to say, and it almost sounds very validating to what you're saying as well.
Well, and being able to recognize and listen to your own spirit teachers, any thoughts you receive that are incoming have a different feel in your mind than thoughts that we just think on an everyday basis. It's a subtle difference. But once you can realize and see that difference, then you know when you're being spoken to and advised. I tell people that you can accept or reject, again, any advice, guidance, direction, or support that you're given. And on my website, spiritspeaks.com, it says, for all sincere seekers of truth. And then it says, when the student is ready, a teacher will appear. And for me, that has always been appropriate all my life. Being a seeker, you are led or directed to a movie, a book, a speaker, an event, and it's a path that we walk. And by projecting that information that you want to know, then that information is made available. I don't do a whole lot on Facebook, but I read a post recently and it said, I don't want to just believe, I want to know. And we have been told to believe and have faith for 2,000 years. For 2,000 years, we've been, well, just believe, just have faith. And then when you cross over, when you die, and again, there is no death, you're going to end up in the good place or the bad place for all eternity. And I knew a lady one time that had a son who was constantly getting into trouble. From the time he was 14 years old to the time he was 28, the money that they spent on bail and fines and attorneys, it was just a real struggle for them in their family. And she was brought up Baptist, went to church on Sundays and Wednesday evenings, carried her Bible around with her everywhere she went. And she knew the information and what I was involved in. And she just firmly believed that she was going to go to heaven, and she firmly believed that hell existed. And I asked her one time, I said, is there anything that your son could do, anything at all, that would cause you not to want to give him another chance? And she just put her head down and said, no. And I said, what makes you think God loves us any less? Do you really believe, based on this short span of existence that we live in these physical bodies, that once we cross over, that we're going to be sentenced for all eternity to punishment and damnation with no chance for reprieve, no chance for a do-over? If you wouldn't do that to your own son, why do you think God loves us any less? So I don't believe, I mean, look at the people that you and I, in LA, in San Francisco, look at the people, drug addicts living on the street, living day to day from just one fix to the next, sleeping on the street, no life, no ambition, no friends. And look at and you could be born in communist China, North Korea, Russia, Ukraine. Look at the lives that people are living that you and I, or most people, would consider to be hell on earth. And maybe this life is their punishment, but they weren't born that way. They're a product of their choices and decisions. And when you cross over, again, there is no death. Do we go to an evaluation center? Do we get to look back at our life and see what we've done, what we could have done better? There's actually two movies that I recommend for people, seekers, who will give them a perspective on this existence. One of them is called Defending Your Life. That has Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep in it. These are older movies. They can be had from the library on DVD, go old school, or you can stream. And the next movie is called Always, and that has Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter in it. Those will give people a perspective of this existence and what may happen once we cross over.
So do you believe in reincarnation, that, to your point, like if people are experiencing hell at this moment, that is some sort of karmic integration?
Well, look at the children born to Bill Gates and Steven Spielberg. They'll want for nothing. Granted, they'll have their challenges, but that kind of wealth and connection makes all the difference in the world. And then you've got people that are born to alcoholic fathers, drug-addicted mothers, abusive parents. Right. And you can be born anywhere, not just the United States, but anywhere on the planet. And is it all just random? Is it luck of the draw? Did Bill Gates and Steven Spielberg's children win the lottery and we didn't? Or are we assigned to a certain set of parents in a certain social station for whatever it is we're supposed to learn in this lifetime? And if you're open to that, then you're open to reincarnation.
Okay. So, for somebody who's listening today who's intrigued and they want to start developing a relationship with their own spirit teachers, what are some of the simple daily practices that you would recommend to begin opening that line of communication?
Well, the easiest way is read and experience messages and teachings that have been received from spirit teachers. Now, Wilma Jean Jones, my mother, again, she had been spoken to in thought before. But when she was led to sit down in these dedicated sessions, she had set up an electric typewriter in her kitchen. She would be led in her mind, we have a message for you. She would go in, sit down, light a candle, say a prayer, ask for protection because that was her background. And she would see 3 or 4 words just float into her mind and hang there. They would not go away until she typed them. Once she typed those 3 or 4 words, they would just fade away and 3 or 4 more would show up. That's how she got these messages. Full page, single space type. Now, she had been receiving messages, I'd say, for a good 10, 12 years, but she had also received in thought, the way most people do. And she was working around the kitchen one day, and these words started to come into her mind. She knew it was incoming. So she picked up pen and paper. She had beautiful handwriting. And she took this message down, and she felt this was a message that she should put these messages and teachings in a book. She had been praying about it. May I share this message with you and your audience?
Please.
And this will just give you an idea of how these spirit teachers speak. So this is the message that she received in thought. Emptiness is part of fulfillment. Let your resources fill the void left so that distinction of your purpose can be found. Expression is always self-explanatory. Therefore, look inside and anchor all your beliefs beside those still waters. It will take away your troubled view and renew your strength to recapture that which was lost, but is now found to be adequate to pursue the course set before you. And as you reconcile your being to represent those qualities that have been left intact, God will see to it that although circumstances have been trying, to say the least, your weariness will disappear as clouds once removed allow the sun to shine to dispel the gloom and darkness that has pervaded your countenance. And as once described before, a token of this presence will be deposited to your account and books recorded in his name.
I felt almost like I was levitating as you read those words. Thank you so much.
Well, when Wilma, again, was led to sit down and do these and receive these messages, I would say that most people involved in this material, they know what channeling is.
Yeah.
And channeling is where people, a medium, a psychic, will relax their mind, tune in, drop down in level, and many times their expression will change and even their voice will change as they receive a message from the spirit teacher that's presenting the information. There's also a talent called automatic writing. Are you familiar with automatic writing? Where
Yes, I've had the
someone will
privilege.
sit down with a tablet and a pen, again, drop down in level, tune in, relax their mind, and their hand will start to write. And they will write a message from the spirit teacher that's presenting the message for whoever they're doing the reading for. So when Wilma Jean, my mother, was led to sit down, she would see words. She would receive a message addressed to her from her spirit teachers. And then she would receive a message addressed to me from my spirit teachers. And these messages had a different tone, a different feel, because they were coming from her teachers and my teachers for each of us. She would get 2 messages in a session, and it would take 3 to 4 hours, just getting 3 and 4 words at a time, to be able to receive these 2 messages. On my website, spiritspeaks.com, there are tabs at the top, bio for me, bio for my mother, and there's a tab for a television interview that my mother had given in Cincinnati. Posted on her interview is a message from volume 2 of the book, and this was the only time in a session where she was led to sit down and receive. 2 different spirit teachers moved in the same session, gave 2 different messages, and signed 2 different names. And it was obvious that the second teacher was a different teacher than the first because the whole cadence and phrasing of the message is different. And these spirit teachers repeatedly refer to themselves in first person. We feel, we believe, we advise. Our view encompasses more than your view can comprehend. One line in a message said, "We hear the spirit cries above the words you speak." Who talks like that? I don't talk like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, this message was a little more than a long paragraph. May I share this message with you and your audience?
Sure.
And these messages and teachings in the book, even though they were given for Wilma Jean and myself, and in volumes 2 and 3, which are not out yet, I'm looking for a new publisher, the messages became longer, higher teachers started moving in, and they became more general teachings, although they would address my mother and myself. But this particular message, I thought, was just amazing. And the next to the last line is the line that makes me sit up and take notice. There is a resurrection period through which man must travel in order to come into the realm of things godlike. You're to consume and digest all that is given here, as this comes from one highly qualified to meet the needs of this generation. You are not the sole property of yourselves. God still holds the everlasting command over your being, and in him must one take refuge. You're to be considered as one who has been stripped of all belonging and left to die by the wayside. In this manner, are you then open to any help that would be forthcoming? You are by your very nature ones who would depend on your own intellect to carry you through. However, by giving of your soul into the hands of God, do you prosper and develop more freely into that which denies the outcome of some situations, knowing full well that it is the hand of God leading and directing you so that you may arise victorious in the end. There is never a time when you will be without the Father, nor his ever-loving approaches to see that you follow the path that directs you homeward. Take note that we say homeward. As your heavenly Father so resides in that vast and surmountable environment of time and space, so shall ye abide in joint communication with him by the grace with which he covers you and by your ability to accept this grace and use it for your own development. There are others here who wish to make themselves known to you, so I will step aside for this time. My love and devotion follows you as you trod onward, but ever faithful to your goal. That message was signed, Your Loving Guide. Now, that next to the last line, like I said, has made me sit up and take notice. And he says there are others here who wish to make themselves known to you. My question is, who are the others and where is here? What do you mean there are others here? Where are you in relation to us on this physical plane?
It almost seems that the message was interpreted through her, channeled through her in a way that really spoke to her initial beliefs that were founded upon religion, because God is anthropomorphized, the hand of God. And it almost seems different than how spiritualists would call God, which is source or the universe or energy. So I find that there is still that interesting interpretation that allows almost like King James Bible-esque that comes through in that message.
I've had people say that before, and I've thought about that. But because she was taking dictation, because she was seeing words, and she would repeatedly, there was a message that she received. These spirit teachers repeatedly, again, refer to themselves in first person. And she was receiving a message in volume 2, and she stopped right in the middle of the message and typed a question. And she asked, she said, who are the I and the we that's presenting this information? And they congratulated her for asking and gave 2-paragraph answer to who they really are. And these spirit teachers in these messages, they acknowledge that they are God's direct representatives. But I agree with you that they do seem to have a tone coming from a biblical nature.
Yeah, a bit different than what Bashar says through his channel and like an Abraham Hicks. I mean, there's different kinds of voices that channel through different personalities in order to be able to relay a message and be relevant or something that a certain subset of people who may have an upbringing or would be able to relate to a bit more specifically, I think.
I agree.
Interesting.
Now that spirit teacher moved aside, another spirit teacher moved in, gave a 1.5-page message and signed a different name. These spirit teachers in these messages, they repeatedly end the message with a really profound last paragraph or a deep and meaningful last sentence. I won't read the entire message, but may I read this last paragraph of the second teacher that moved in?
Yes.
You are not as sheep herded here and there, but you are likened unto the lamb that is cared for individually, nourished and loved until the full and total development allows it to be master of itself. So is man so kept and denied only those things that would not in the long run nourish his spirit. God is all wise and loving in his dispensations. We are not to judge the workings of our Father, nor are we to judge each other. Work always to improve your own beings, for in the end time there lies your soul, with all the nourishment that you have given it, totally dependent upon the outcome of your intentions. And that message was signed, your loving spiritual teacher. Two different teachers, two different messages, both signed. And a number of the messages in the book are signed with various names of spirit teachers. And people have asked, they say, well, if spirit teachers are angels, how are they signed? And throughout the book, and all 3 volumes actually, there were never any messages that were signed, your loving angel, your guardian angel, your angelic messenger. They were all signed either singular, your loving guide, your loving spiritual teacher. Sometimes they're signed in plural, your loving spiritual teachers, your loving guides. And it's almost like there's a collaboration going on in the reception of these messages where a group of spirit teachers would gather and sharing and create this message, but yet it was signed with a singular name.
I think that it's really fascinating how spirit came to work and channel in this way through your mother and also through you in the way that you are intuitive as well. And others, for those who are listening, who are like, well, this is a bit different. There are a lot of people who maybe in the creative space who say that like if I'm writing a song or if I'm writing a book, this didn't come from me. This came from some other place and I don't know where it came from, but it was channeled through me like I was a vessel and it just kind of came through me. And so I believe that there are different ways that spirit works through us, these different energies, and harmonizes with our own energetic beings in the form that we are in order to get these pieces of art or these messages or this wisdom to us and really energize the world further, humanity further, etc. You had also mentioned that sometimes your mother would channel messages that contained words that she wasn't even aware of, or they even turned out to be prophetic later on. Could you explain a little bit of that?
There were words that these spirit teachers used many times that Wilma Jean, my mother, wasn't familiar with. One of the words that just came to my mind is forbearance. And they talked about forbearance. And she looked it up after, because she wasn't familiar with the word. I'm not really that familiar. It means patient restraint. And these spirit teachers, would talk about using forbearance in situations that she was dealing with or something that they were even doing. And I thought that was interesting. So she, again, because she was taking dictation, and she tried always not to use her own thoughts because of her religious background, she would take what was being given. And in that message that she received, where she asked about the I and the we being the source of this information, she typed a second note toward the end of that message and said that she was prone not to use her own definition, namely angels, but she was going with what was being given. And I thought that took a lot of discipline to be able to receive and take down the words 3 and 4 at a time. Now, some of these sentences are 100 words long with punctuation. And you and I talking, or if you were explaining something to someone, how could you explain something to someone, giving them 3 and 4 words at a time, holding your train of thought and allowing them to write those 3 or 4 words down as you continue to explain some deep, profound teaching? I mean, for us, it would be extremely difficult.
Forbearance.
Right.
Yeah. You were mentioning before that one of the ways that people could start opening themselves up to this form of communication to spirit guides and teachers is by actually reading teachings of others, such as your book. What are some other practices that people could explore? How did you develop your own psychic abilities?
Well, again, you have to start with an open mind. Most people, like you said, the majority of of people, because of our parents, you said that you were originally brought up Catholic and then, switched to Christian or
Born again. Protestant.
Right. Protestant. And that's the way most of us are. And unless you're brought up with parents that have no foundation of faith at all, then you're pretty much all on your own. Now, again, you've been born to a certain set of parents with a certain social station for whatever you're supposed to learn in this lifetime. So people, if they are seekers, if you're a seeker and you really want to know, you don't want to just believe, then you will be led. Ask in your mind, say, show me the way. Just let me know and, keep me safe. Let me be able to find this information that's available, and it's out there. But these messages and teachings that mother Wilma Jean received seem so applicable. And I tell people, I say, when you get the book, read each message once as it was given for Wilma Jean and given for me. Then read that same message again as if it's being presented for you and see what hits. It's amazing what hits. it's almost a little spooky. It's like, how do they know? How do they know what I'm going through? How do they know what I'm dealing with? Now, we each have our own situations that we've gone through. Wilma went through a divorce. I've gone through a divorce. Not everyone is going to have those same life experiences. But the teachings, these are universal teachings that people can't deny, seem to be applicable to what they're dealing with.
What do you think are some of the most common blocks that prevent people from connecting with the spiritual realm? How do you think that those can be dissolved?
Did you say common blocks?
Yes.
Well, look at the people that think that when you die, that's it. You don't exist anymore. They don't believe in heaven. They don't believe in hell. They just feel that that's it. You had your one shot, and what happens? You dissolve, you disappear, your spirit evaporates. And so there's just a myriad of belief systems that people have. People with a foundation of faith, they have an advantage, I believe, because they're already communicating with the spiritual realm in prayer. But just knowing that there is no death, that you will have an opportunity to correct mistakes, things that you've done in your life. I think of Jesus when he was with God in the spiritual realm, and he chose to be, born to a set of parents, Joseph and Mary, to live a life of physical existence on this planet. That's the very definition of reincarnation, that you exist in spiritual body in the spiritual realm, and that you come to the earth, born to a set of parents, and live a full life. So if he could do it, why can't we?
Is there life outside of Earth?
Well, outside of Earth on the physical plane, I believe are you talking other civilizations and societies and individuals? I believe there would have to be. It would be awfully arrogant of us to think that out here on the outer edge of the Milky Way galaxy, we're out here in the low rent district of the universe, probably because we won't contaminate anybody else. In the Milky Way galaxy, people don't realize the distances in the universe itself. The Milky Way galaxy is 2,000 light years across. That's 186,000 miles a second times 2,000 years. It's 1,000 light years thick. The nearest galaxy to ours is the Andromeda, and that's 30 light years away. The James Webb telescope, Hubble telescope, James Webb is the next higher version, has photographed galaxies 7,000 light years away. Now, there has to be civilizations and individual live societies just spread all across the universe. And the spiritual realm is as vast as this physical plane. And each of those people, each of those individuals, those intelligent beings, they would also have their own spirit teachers and guides. What their belief system is, we have no idea. Has an individual son of God gone to their societies and lived a life there for teachings and something to aspire to? We don't really know. We just don't know. But there has to be. There just has to be.
So when we talk about each individual, each human having a spiritual teacher, there is also a thought that we are all one and that we are all born of the same consciousness and that we are all essentially a singular entity having individual experiences on Earth. How do you morph that thought into the individuation of spirit teachers and angels and almost like this hierarchy with archangels and God, etc.?
Well, because we have been given, again, if you accept personalized thought adjusters or a spirit teacher, we're not alone. We've been given our own, but we are also individuals. We may try and affirm a connection and be one with the universe, but we're still individuals. We still have our own lives to live, our own experiences to endure. And I had one of the interesting things talking about that, those lines are in a message that I received. When I was first looking for a publisher, I was on a number of different publisher websites. One of the websites asked questions about your work. One of the questions was, what makes your material unique? Why would anyone want to read this? Great question. And I was sitting where I'm sitting right now at my computer. I didn't really even ask for an answer. I just relaxed my mind. And an answer started to be dictated to my mind. It was 12 lines long. And I just typed it down as it was given. And this was a profound answer that I would not have come up with. May I share this with you and your audience?
Please.
So the question was, what makes your material unique? And this is the answer that I was given. The uniqueness of any material is in the manner in which it touches the soul. An open and searching mind pulls the soul, and the body in which it inhabits onward and upward with hunger and determination in its quest for spiritual nourishment, ever mindful that the path upon which we walk is the path toward God. Lives lived, experiences endured, goals accomplished, and loved ones lost are all encounters upon that path. Strive always for the highest possible communication with our Heavenly Father. Believe in yourself as the Father within you is guiding, leading, directing, and comforting you upon this journey that we call life. Blessings be upon you as you walk your chosen pathway.
Wow.
That was not me. That was not me. And when
That's
it got to
beautiful.
the end, I said out loud, I said, "Thank you, Spirit."
Yeah.
And that
Always
was
thank
one of my
you.
mother's favorite expressions when she would be given information that would come through, be told something was going to happen or that it was going to be okay. She would always say and acknowledge, "Thank you, Spirit." And these spirit teachers, our own spirit teachers, their joy is in our recognition of their existence. And if you want to build that connection with your own spirit teachers, as you're given information, whether it's the parking spot angel, people say, "Well, I have a parking spot angel. Everywhere I go where I need a spot, I always ask, and a spot is made available." That's really your spirit teacher helping you out. So we're there. I mean, we're there. We're so close. And it's just, we're so close to believing in all of this and accepting it and just recognize it. But being able to see these messages and teachings that Wilma Jean, my mother, received, and the depth and quality of these teachings are as profound as anything I've ever read. And I've been involved in spiritual material for 30 years.
Wow. Are spirit teachers those who have passed on before us? Are they our ancestors that have crossed over?
I don't believe so. I mean, there are mediums that can contact people that have crossed over, but those are people that are on a journey of their own. The spirit teachers that we're given and allowed to communicate with ourselves, I don't know if they've been physical and lived physical lives before, or whether they could have been. They had to come from somewhere. And just like Clarence, AS2, Angel Second Class, and It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, he was trying to earn his wings. So, and then he wouldn't have to come back anymore and help physical beings on the earth. So you don't really know. I mean, we won't know until we cross over to get the big picture.
Right.
But again, in that movie, Defending Your Life, and the movie Always, that will give people a perspective of existence and what we may or may not have to look forward to.
Thank you for those references. I'll definitely look into them myself.
You know, people, if they, again, know that they're not alone, know that they have the capability to receive and communicate with their own spirit teachers, then they will be led on the path that they walk.
Beautiful. And finally, where can people find the book, connect with your work, and continue learning more about your messages on the spirit world?
The book itself is available on my website, spiritspeaks.com. There is a way to order the book there. It's available through Barnes & Noble. Any Barnes & Noble store in the country can order it. It's in their system. Ingram is my national distributor. So if you have a favorite independent bookstore, they all deal with Ingram. You can order the book through Ingram. And then it's also available on Amazon.
Beautiful. Michael McAdams, Beautiful Humans, thank you so much for being my guest today on the Human Beauty Movement podcast. It was such a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Human Beauty Movement podcast. Be sure to follow, rate, and review us wherever you stream podcasts. The Human Beauty Movement is a community-based platform that cultivates the beauty of humankind. Check out our workshops, find us on social media, and share our inspiration with all the beautiful humans in your life. Learn more at thehumanbeautymovement.com. Thank you so much for being a beautiful human.